Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. For those of you who were here last night, welcome back. For those of you who are here for the first time, we're happy to have you. This recording is basically a summary of everything we talked about last night. So, anyone who missed it can watch it, or anyone who wants to watch it for a second time because they came late can as well. And so, we're going to have a couple of these throughout the summer. They're family meetings, so everyone is welcome to them, anyone from the community, and it's just to share and update you on what's going on as we're planning on reopening UAG in the fall. So the first thing is our agenda. We're going to speak about the numbers, and we're going to talk about some safety measures that we're taking. We're going to give you some of the schedule options we've been thinking about. We'll talk about the pros and cons of remote versus hybrid. And then at the end, of course, this isn't live, so we can't do Q&A, but I can share some of the questions that parents asked last night and students asked. So first we'll start with the numbers. The numbers are crucial. The numbers are what's going to determine the schedule that we have. Currently, UAG has 35 teachers, 21 classrooms, and 467 students. We have more students this year than last year because our incoming class is much larger. Based on the estimates that we received from the DOE, they said that we can safely hold 270 to 330 students at any given time and still adhere to the social distancing guidelines. Now, this is just for Gateway. This does not include the other schools in the building. They have their own estimates. Based on these estimates, this means in a classroom, it's about 15 kids a classroom. Obviously, some of the classrooms are much larger. They can hold more safely, and some of the classes are much smaller, so they can't hold as many. Now, in terms of what will this look like in a classroom? So we actually went in and measured all the classrooms and took inventory of all the furniture that we have, and we tried to figure out, are these estimates accurate? And so they were accurate. If you take this classroom as an example, this is classroom 750, an English classroom. This room is 896 square feet. And usually it has about 32 desks in it. So in this picture, there's 32 student desks. This doesn't include the foldable desk over here on the left. This doesn't include the teacher desk up front. It doesn't include the desks in the back with computers on them. It doesn't include this desk when you walk in with supplies. This is just student desks. So our plan would be to remove any of the extra furniture, desks, chairs that are not necessary. And the reason that we're trying to do this is to make sure that as kids and staff walk through the aisles, they're not automatically against another student. So that way, even when kids are moving through aisles, they are still able to socially distance. And this also avoids kids sitting in areas that they shouldn't sit. So if we have two desks next to each other, what's to stop a kid from sitting right down next to someone? It will also alleviate some of the cleaning because we won't be able to know which desks were touched, which weren't, and it'll make cleaning for custodial staff a lot faster and easier. Someone asked last night, like, well, what if someone moves the desk? How do you ensure that they stay in that 6 feet apart distance? And so that's a great point, and we're going to put markers on the floor to indicate where the desks go. That way, if they do get moved around, they will always be returned to their place. Another consideration is the hallway. So originally when we started this conversation before we went back to the school, we were worried because we were like, oh my God, our hallways are so narrow. But the good thing is our hallways are not actually narrow. I think in our mind, we thought they were narrow, but when we measured them, they are wide. And they are wide enough to have two directional flow. And so one of the things that we will do is we're gonna put stickers on the floor to indicate the direction that students should walk in, as well as to indicate spacing. So if you recall at the end of last year, we put some arrows on the hall, the freshman side of the hall, so freshmen knew which side to stay on. So we're just going to be extending those stickers down the hall. Another decision that we made was not to issue lockers this year. Lockers will create an area where kids will congregate, and it will be difficult to socially distance, and it also creates another surface that kids will be touching. And so we want to really limit the surfaces that kids are touching, limit the areas where kids are congregating. And so for that reason, for the time being, we're not assigning lockers. Another conversation that we had was around keeping all the windows open, keeping doors open to allow for circulation of air, and also to avoid kids having to constantly touch doorknobs. For example, most rooms have two doors, and so in cases of two doors, we'll make sure that we have one door that's an in and one that's an out, so kids are not bumping into each other along the way. In terms of cleaning, so if you know anything about UAG, you know that we have the cleanest floor in the entire Department of Education. Our custodianess is incredible, and in general, our custodial staff is really great. And so they are going to be increasing the frequency of cleaning as well as the areas that they clean. So meaning like they'll be cleaning doorknobs, they'll be cleaning desks. The frequency is currently unknown, but based on last night's meeting with the Department of Education, the chancellor said that it'll be a deep cleaning every night. So it looks like the cleaning will happen every single night at the end of the school day with electrostatic sprayers. Bathrooms and classrooms are also going to be cleaned. It's not just the hallways, so I don't want you to think like, oh, it's just the main hallway and then the entry. Everything will be cleaned, the bathroom, the staircases, the classrooms. So now I'm going to talk about PPE and hand sanitizer. So the DOE is sending hand sanitizer and face masks. However, we were already told by our custodial staff that it's likely going to be hand sanitizer stations, which are the wall mounted touchless station that you put your hands under and the hand sanitizer comes out. And so they will not be in every classroom, but they will be in certain areas in the hallway. And so this is where I'm going to ask for your help. I've never asked you guys for anything. You know that in a lot of schools, they send you a supply list at the beginning of the year that says, please bring like 1 bottle of Windex, 2 rolls of paper towels, 1 box of tissues. And so I've never asked that before, but I have to ask that now. I would feel a lot better. You would feel a lot better. We would all feel a lot better if we knew that there was hand sanitizer in every single classroom, every single day. If there were Clorox wipes in every single classroom, every single day. And so I'm going to ask if you can to please donate a bottle or 2 of hand sanitizer or Clorox wipes to the school. And they will be directly in the classrooms. They're not going to be in a closet. We will keep them in the classrooms for your kids, for our staff, for everyone to use. And we have 467 students. So if everyone can donate a bottle or 2, it'll ensure that we have 1 for every single room for the rest of the year. In terms of PPE and masks, so all individuals inside the building will be required to wear face masks. That includes staff, that includes teachers, that includes students, that includes visitors. And so most likely they will be these blue face masks, the disposable ones. Now, in terms of, do I have to wear it? Can I wear my own? Yes, you can absolutely wear your own face mask. You're not required to wear the one that is issued. We're also gonna remove the time restriction for the bathroom. So at UAG, usually you can't use the bathroom in the first 10 or last 10 minutes of class. We're gonna keep the bathroom open throughout the day. That way, kids have access to the sink more frequently and to soap, to hand wash, but also it will allow us to not have too many kids in the bathroom at once. Now, adjustments to the school day. This will definitely have to happen. And so one example of an adjustment will be entry. Entry will look very different. And so we're still figuring out what it will look like exactly, but 2 of the conversations that we've had were either around staggered start, meaning each school starts at a different time in the building, or separate entrances for all the schools. So as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we have 5 schools in the building. And so while, let's say, UAG is going to have 270 kids in at any given day, so will Boss, so will Mather, so will the 2 Success Academies. And so all together, that's a lot of kids coming in at once. And we want to make sure that we're separating the kids coming in. And so they'll either be coming into different entrances or at different times. There will be social distancing signs posted outside around the perimeter of the building, because again, kids are going to be lining up outside to come in. There is likely going to be a screening process upon entry. I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking it'll probably be temperature checks. We're still waiting for the DOE to give some guidance. But that does take some time. And so we don't want to create this like massive gathering of students from all the schools waiting to be allowed in. And so for that reason, we're going to come up with some sort of entry plan. Large areas such as the cafeteria, the gym, the auditorium, they're not going to be used in the traditional sense. And what does that mean? So cafeteria, for example, we're not going to be using it for lunch. Why? Well, if you've been in the cafeteria with everyone in there, it's a lot of kids and it's really hard to social distance. One of the things that came up was like, why don't you let half the kids go out for lunch? Well, the challenge is, remember, when folks are leaving the building and coming back in, we have to do that entry process to take your temperature, to make sure you hand sanitize, to make sure you put on your face mask, and that takes time. And so we don't want kids leaving the building, because it's going to take a lot of time for them to come back into the building. And so for that reason, no one will be allowed out for lunch. Most likely lunch will be bagged lunch. And why bagged lunch? Just because it's really difficult to socially distance kids in a line and serve them food at the same time. It'll take forever. And so the easier thing is to prepare the lunch in advance, put it in bags. That way it's already prepped, ready to go, and kids will either receive it in their classroom or as they leave. One of the things that we did talk about is having a lunch period at the end of the day. Think about it when you took the SATs and how you didn't have lunch during the SATs, but as soon as you finished the SATs, you got your lunch on the way out. And so that is one of the things that we're thinking. In terms of physical education, so while the gym is really, really big, there are still 5 schools in the building. And so there's not enough gym to go around, and there's not enough gym teachers to go around to allow us to safely socially distance everyone in the gym. And so the other piece about the gym is kids are going to be sweating, they're going to be active. And so that means in between every single gym class, we have to have a procedure for disinfecting the space, for cleaning the equipment. And so for that reason, as a campus, we did make a decision that all physical education classes will be held remotely. They will be online. We're working with some options in terms of an app, possibly, for kids to get PE instruction. And then the last large space is the auditorium. The auditorium has traditionally been used for core value ceremonies, for orientation, for large meetings. We're not going to use it in that same space, in that space in that same capacity. We're going to be using it as an isolation area for all schools. And the reason that we're thinking that is we don't know how many kids are going to need to be put in an isolation area. So the isolation area would be used if somebody's exhibiting symptoms or has a fever and needs to be isolated until they're picked up. The reason we like the auditorium for this is it's a large space. So if there's 1 kid, it'll work. But if there's 20 kids, it'll still work. The other reason is there's a direct entrance to the auditorium from the side. So, there is a way that if kids need to wait, they can enter the auditorium without having contact with the other floors and other individuals. And it's right next to the nurses station. There's a new nurses station on the 2nd floor. So that way it can be staffed with our nurses. Now, schedule options. So the schedule options are something that we've talked about at great lengths. We have not made a decision. We will not make a decision until much later in August. And so I want to give you some of the options that we've thought about. So 2 of the options are similar. Those are the keep it consistent options. And so in these options, we would maintain the bell schedule. And so again, I'm only talking about bell schedule. I'm not talking about like what period you have math, what period you have science. So we would keep sort of the same schedule where it'd be like A, B, C, D, except in one variation of the schedule, half the kids come on, let's say Monday, Wednesday, and the other half come Tuesday, Thursday. So that is the chancellor's recommended model. Now, the other option is to do, instead of alternating days, we would do alternating weeks. So half of the kids would come every single day for 1 week, and then half of the kids would come every single day the next week. And so when you're not in school, you're doing remote learning. And that's why it's called hybrid, because in all of these options, there's a mix of remote learning and in person. Now, the other 2 models are very different. So the core only model would be different in that it would shorten the day, and it would shorten the number of classes that we offer during the day. And the reason that we've been thinking about this is it would allow us to change the start and end time of the day. And the reason that we want to do that is, 1, we've been thinking about transportation. One of the things that across the board parents said, and staff actually, is their major concern about returning to school is public transportation. And so if we have a later start time, it would mean that students are not traveling all at the same time. And so at 8 o'clock, the trains are packed, right? But maybe if you're going at 9 o'clock, the trains are a lot emptier. And same thing for at the end of the day. While we have 5 schools in the building, there's also several schools around the area. Park West is a block away. Environmental Studies is 3 blocks away. And so having kids leaving all at the same time from around the neighborhood means a lot of kids at the train station. And so this would allow us to end the school day a little bit earlier. In terms of when would your child come to school, they would still do that sort of idea of alternating days, Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, and then every other Friday. Now, the last model is a pod model, and this is very, very different from what you've seen. This would mean, of course, we would have to change the bell schedule, but we would also create a pod model where students would be in one room for the whole day with their little pod. And so it would mean you get assigned a group of like 12 to 15 kids, and you stay with them for lunch, for math, for science, and just the teachers would rotate. So some of the teachers would rotate around. So these are the four sort of big ideas that we've been thinking about. So now what I want to talk to you about is what are the changes? Because regardless of the schedule model that we go with, there will be changes that'll happen across the board. And so one of the changes that we've discussed is the start and end time of the school day. And the reason that we're leaning towards changing that is it'll allow for three things. One, it avoids the mass transit rush. Two, if we end the school day early enough, it'll allow students to have lunch at the end of the day, meaning they won't have to eat inside the school building and take off their mask inside the school building. And three, it allows us to have a staggered entry, right? And so, if you think about when all the schools are coming into the building, yes, every school will have, two to 300 kids, but if they're all coming in at once, that's 2 to 300 times five, which is a lot of kids. The other thing to consider is we have a lot of schools in the area. So 1 block away is Park West, 3 blocks away is Environmental Studies, and so Beacon's not too far away. So we have a lot of kids that are congregating around the neighborhood, and changing the start and end time will allow us to maintain a little bit of distance from the other schools. Period length is something else that we're considering changing because kids will be in school less frequently. We're thinking about making the periods a little bit longer. Another conversation we've had is advisory. And so right now there's an advisory structure for ninth grade and a little bit for 10th grade in health, but there's not really anything for 11th grade. And in the 12th grade, it's really focused on college. And so we want to create some sort of structure. Think of it like quarantine, like you had in remote learning, for all the grades. And this is really to provide a support structure for you, whether you're in person or online, a UAG staff member for you to connect with and to support you through this. Especially with the transition. A lot of kids are going to have anxiety about returning into the building as well as staff. And a lot of kids are going to have anxiety about staying online and not returning into the building. And so we want to make sure that we have some sort of support structure in place to address these concerns. Some schools last year used iLearn, some used Edmentum. UAG used Google Classroom. We were really happy with it. And so we're going to continue using Google Classroom in the fall. And so Google Classroom is going to become the central hub for where all content is going to live, whether you're taking classes in person or online. A lot of parents expressed that they loved having the videos for instruction. So when we did the survey, parents said like the pre-recorded videos were super helpful and gold was super helpful. And so those are two structures that we are going to maintain for remote learning days and for remote learning. Now, it's not going to be possible to have kids who are doing the remote learning option. Some of you asked, is it possible to have like a schedule where they log in and they have their live classes? Remember, teachers are going to be teaching kids in person and online, and they can't be in two places at once. And so this like live instruction by the period is likely not going to be able to happen. And so the next best thing is to have pre-recorded videos. The live instruction will happen in terms of gold. So the same way that you had a gold day during remote learning in the spring, we're going to come up with some sort of structure like that where gold will still live and gold will still be live, but instruction will be recorded videos. In terms of what classes will be online, so we're not yet sure which teachers will be working from home. And so if, for example, a geometry teacher is working from home, then the geometry classes will have to be fully online. And so that you'll get updated on as we get more information, but I do want you to prepare to know that some classes might be fully remote. So many of you expressed that you want to know exactly what is UAG doing before you make a decision of whether you'll be keeping your kids fully online or allowing them to come to school. Unfortunately, it's almost the other way around. Actually, it is the other way around. We can't make a definitive decision until we know what you are doing. The decision that we make is really first and foremost founded in numbers. And so it's a very different plan if I know that 300 students from UAG are going to be fully online versus 50 students. And so there are a couple of things that we need to know as a school community before we fully decide what our schedule will look like. Many parents last night asked, like, when am I going to get the schedule? When am I going to know what UAG is doing? You will not know for sure until mid to late August. And I know that's very late, but that's because there's a lot of information we're waiting on. So we need to know how many students are online fully versus in the hybrid model attending school. And you have until August 7th to decide, which means we won't know until probably August 14th or August 10th what that information is. We also need to know how many teachers will be granted exemptions to work from home or will be applying for leaves. It's a very different plan if we have, out of the 35 teachers, if we have 30 teachers in the building versus if we have 20. We also need to know how the other schools in the campus are going to be operating. While we're all working together, there's also individual needs that each school has. And so we want to know what everybody's plan is so we can come up with something that works for everyone. We need to know what are the DOE guidelines on instructional time, on grading policy, on regents. If the Department of Education comes out and says you cannot do physical education remotely, that obviously changes our plan. And so we haven't received any of this guidance yet, so we're still waiting on it. But as soon as we do, we can continue moving forward. And the last thing that we need is feedback from you, feedback from families, from students, from staff, from everyone in the community. As you give us your feedback and as you ask questions, it really helps inform our next step. And then this is where you're kind of stuck and wondering, what do I do? Like, what do I do now? Do I do remote? Do I do hybrid? That's why I came to this meeting. I want to know what to decide. Unfortunately, I can't answer that for you, but I could give you some considerations. So the first one is travel, right? If your concern is travel and that is what's on your mind, like, I cannot feel good about my child taking public transportation. So that is something that's not going to change. The DOE is not going to send a bus to your home to pick up your child. Um, they're going to have to take public transportation. And so if that's the thing that's really like the pit in your stomach, like you don't feel good about it, I would say select remote learning, because there's nothing you can do about the public transportation. Some of you said, like, I'm not worried about public transportation. I'm really worried about academics. I don't know if my child is going to get as strong instruction at home as they would in school. Either way, instruction is going to be provided. And as long as UAG teachers are teaching remotely, I can tell you our teachers are amazing. They will do an excellent job, and the quality of education will not suffer either way. In terms of like, what if I'm really not sure? Well, something to consider is you can always try remote and then return to the school building at designated periods. We don't know what those periods are, but the chancellor said that it'll be quarterly. I'm just not sure if it's 4 times a semester or 4 times a year. But you can return to in person if remote doesn't work. And vice versa, you can always switch to fully remote if the hybrid model does not work. So other things that you should know as you're making your decision. In terms of hybrid, we are going to ask you to bring your Chromebook with you to and from school. So we're going to make sure that every single student in the school has access to a laptop. Now, the reason that we're asking you to bring it to and from school is we do not have enough Chromebooks or laptops to give one to every kid to take home and to have one for every kid in school. And so for that reason, we're going to ask you to bring it back and forth. The other reason is if we have kids using laptops in school, that's another surface that multiple kids are touching and we'll have to get disinfected. But if this is your computer and you bring it to and from, you know that the only person who's going to touch it is yourself. In terms of PSAL sports and ROTC, those are huge at Gateway and huge in our campus. They will both likely not happen in the fall. ROTC will happen, but it will be a remote model. Unfortunately, it's too risky to have gatherings of such large quantities in person that happen because of ROTC and that happen because of PSAL sports. There is a chance that some of the more socially distanced sports occur, but we haven't heard the final word on that. Clubs will still happen. They'll just look a little differently. Obviously, clubs like Gamer Haven, where you can do the whole thing online, will happen online, and some of them will happen in person. And then the other thing that everyone kept asking about was UAG uniform. Is there still going to be a uniform? And so at the end of last year, we surveyed staff and we surveyed kids about what were their feelings about the uniform. and majority wanted to get rid of the uniform policy. And although right now we're not in a space to make a decision, we do know one thing for a fact. The more important thing next year is that you're wearing a face mask, not a gateway shirt. And so for next year, our uniform policy is a face mask. If you're wearing a face mask, you're in uniform. Now, somebody asked yesterday, does it have to be a UAG branded face mask? No, it doesn't. Any face mask means you're in uniform policy. But we are going to have UAG branded washable face masks for those of you who still want to rock the G. And if you still want to wear a uniform, you absolutely could. I'm not prohibiting you from it. If you want to rock your, Amazing Race T-shirt, or you want to rock your UAG Advanced Regents hoodie, you still absolutely could. And now the last part is Q&A. And so what I'm going to do is ask some of the questions that parents asked last night and give you the answers. One big question that came up is what is going to be the protocol for if somebody gets a confirmed positive COVID test, whether it be a student or a staff member. The DOE is going to issue some guidance around that, but we have not yet heard anything. I am confident there's going to be some sort of protocol to follow. So whether it be isolating a class and asking them to quarantine, or maybe closing school for 24 hours and doing an extra deep cleaning, I'm not sure, but we're waiting for that. Another question that came up is, do I have to wear a certain type of face mask? Could I wear, let's say, a scarf? Could I wear a handkerchief? Could I wear one of the gaiters? Yes, you can wear whatever you want in terms of face covering, as long as it covers your nose and covers your mouth. But again, if you want to wear the ones that are disposable that we hand out, absolutely. If you want to wear your UAG one, absolutely. The one thing you cannot do is like have it be a turtleneck that you pull up and constantly take down. It has to be a legit face covering. Something else that came up is, um, can't I just say that I'm going to do hybrid and stay home from school? Like, why do I have to actually apply into remote learning? And so I'll give you a couple of answers why. One, it really helps us. And so if you're not going to be in school and you're saying you're going to be in school, every one student makes a difference. It really does. And so for us in adequate planning, if you know you're not going to be coming to school and you know you're going to be doing remote learning, just apply for remote learning now. And that way we know for a fact you won't be there. The other reason is attendance. So if you're saying that you're going to be in a hybrid model, meaning coming to school, and the days that you're supposed to come to school, you don't come, you will be marked absent and it will count against you. But if you're in a remote learning model and you don't come to school and you're interacting online, you'll still be marked present. And so to make sure that attendance is accurate, if you know you're not going to be coming to school, do the remote learning only option. Another question that came up was in terms of ventilation. That was something that the parents asked, like, what is the plan for air conditioners and HVAC units and all of that? From my understanding, UAG is in a very old building. It was built in 1959. We have we have exhaust fans, and so we don't have HVAC systems. I know that they're being our ventilation system is being looked at and assessed. I'm going to ask our custodial staff next week, and hopefully I will have an answer for you very soon about that. So otherwise, I am going to say thank you so much for joining me for either the first time or the second time. If you have any other questions, because I'm sure there were certain things that I did not address that you were thinking about, please do not hesitate to email me at d@uagateway.org. I have been answering everyone's questions as they've come in. I can't always promise that I'll have an answer, but I can at least give you an indication of what I think will happen, or at least let you know that an answer hasn't happened yet, but one is coming. Or to let you know, like, yes, we have an answer to that. That's what's happening. So thank you so much to all the freshman families, class of 2024, who are joining us for the first time. Welcome. We are so excited to have you a part of the UAG family, and we look forward to meeting you in person very soon. Thanks so much, guys.